Here I'm going to talk a little more about certain issues that arose with the development of the artistic project Play a Piano as part of the research cluster Performance, Subjectivity and Experimentation that I introduced earlier. In making the pieces that form Play a Piano, I was very aware of what this I might be and of wanting to pick that apart in different ways. Firstly, through the processes of making themselves. Secondly, in terms of how the individual pieces and the performance as a whole, in different ways, and sometimes implicitly, sometimes more obviously, became about the questions of identity, of the performer, her instrument and her world of expression, its potential and limits. And then thirdly, also in writing about all of this. In all of that I, who performs or writes or speaks, is always both the theme and also the means of expression. So everything is about the nature of or the problem of that I, but it's also only through the kind of I that I can speak, whether as a performer, critical musicologist, or something in between. So as in the text I read, there's no way to consider this without entering that game, a game of identity, but I need to constantly pick that apart. This is slippery, but it's also useful. The artistic and more theoretical parts of my inquiry are perhaps more obviously reflective of one another. The artistic output acts reflexively to invite the listener or watcher into the question of identity, actively examining who we're listening to as part of the thematics of the artistic work. And while this is quite a particular case, I would say that kind of reflexivity is often a characteristic of artistic research, and ideally of the artistic outputs of that research. But I've had to be particularly careful from the start about how to frame the work, how to talk to composers or other collaborators, also to audiences, and then how to write about it all in a voice that's both mine and not. A voice partially constituted by the conventions of any of those contexts, by the interactions with those people and contexts, with their discourses and practices. Ultimately then, it has been and continues to be about how to express the reflexivity of this process, the questioning of subjectivity as it operates in and through a process predicated on established notions of identity, roles and agency. In some ways, the process has been very similar to any of my other creative projects since it's collaborative. It operates in an interdisciplinary manner beyond pure music, whatever that might be, and involves negotiating the evolving personal and artistic concerns of all those involved. But the wider context of the research project means that I have to scrutinise those processes at every stage, before, during and after. Not just to ensure a positive artistic output, but also to make sure that the inevitable transformations and perhaps compromises of materials and roles or relationships made along the way as part of the collaborations don't undermine the research inquiry. Again, I think this is highlighted in a project about subjectivity, but is broadly characteristic of artistic research. We are always simultaneously in and out of the work, and usually negotiating processes of art making and research simultaneously. We need always to be explicit about that to ourselves and our collaborators, and to consider the sometimes difficult implications and challenges.